In 2015, on a quiet corner of the internet, an anonymous user made a quick quip about another user's age. 3 years later, the phrase, "Okay, boomer," entered the lexicon of popular internet slang, forever cementing itself as a staple of today's internet culture. Nowadays, the phrase is commonly used as a dismissive retort, mocking older generations who are out of touch with today's youth. But how did OK Boomer become so popular? And what about the phrase makes it so appealing? To answer those questions, we need to talk about. The year is 1979. The world is at the utmost height of a scientific revolution. Technology is advancing at a blazing pace. Plastics are used in every object you could imagine. Advancements in computation allow for more efficient manufacturing and labor, and the economy, well, we can overlook that for the most part. Everything was organized, structured, and built off decades of research and development. Efficiency was key, and that efficiency could only be maintained if things were done the right way. You have a better way in mind? Unfortunately, we won't be accepting that, as it is not tried and tested. This is the modern era, a period of time during which science reigned supreme, and the only appropriate approach to a problem was to invent an efficient solution with said science. A side effect of this line of thinking is a general shift to rational thought. Figures like Nietzsche and Marx worked towards discovering what really is real. This extended to the world around them and to the people inhabiting it. Discourse in this space was dominated by discoveries and theories of how humans fit into the world, how interactions between people are being interpreted, and how these interactions lead to the formation of more abstract groups. Essentially, modernist thinkers were establishing guidelines on how people ought to be structured and what dynamics between these structures were viable. In an advanced world governed by a rigid analytical structure, something had to give. 1979 is a special year, as it was here that the term postmodernism was coined. La condition postmoderne, or in English, the postmodern condition, is a report written by a Jean-François Lyotard, a French philosopher with a plethora of published works within the field. In essence, the postmodern condition describes a simple paradox. Suppose you have two people. One is an expert in a given field. Any field will work. The other is not an expert. Naturally, the non-expert will ask the expert for information and advice, and the expert will gladly oblige. But here's the kicker. What's to say that the expert is right? Sure, they're an expert, but who gave them that title? What if the knowledge they learned is wrong? What if the expert is only deemed as such with no proof of expertise? These are the beginnings of postmodernist beliefs. Postmodernism is the natural evolution of the modernist mentality. The core tenets of structure and evidence-based knowledge remain, but the validation of these is now called into question. On top of that, the organization of the human condition built up by modernist philosophers was about to be turned on its head. In neither of these two cases, what with humanity or their practices, is the modernist ideology being thrown out. Instead, it is being revamped with the postmodern mantra: question everything. In one way, it can be said that the very core of modernism, that desire to be scientific and rational about everything, circled back unto itself. The scientific methods being applied had to be analyzed scientifically, and one cannot assume that they are objective truths without evidence. But let's get a little more specific. Postmodernism is a contrast to modernism in many ways, but for now we're only going to discuss a couple. Let's start with the people. Nietzsche's modern theories describe societal structure as being entirely supported by the press, claiming that a human collective cannot form organically. Other thinkers of this era generally agree with this, describing societal structure's existence as an entirely artificial construct in one way or another. In contrast, postmodernism claims that human structures, including their general ideologies, societal dynamics, and human nature as a whole, are based in something real. Not in the way a modernist claims something must be real or true, but rather these traits are based in an objective reality that must then be subjectively interpreted. In other words, humans aren't shaped by abstract forces. They are shaped by abstract interpretations of real forces. In terms of the modernist emphasis of the scientific method, postmodernism instead embraces a more creative approach to the world. Gone are the objective best methods, as these are relabeled to tactics, strategies, and ideas, to imply it is one of many potential approaches. What's more, these ideas can now be critiqued, and new ideas are no longer shot down on principle. One of the biggest implications of the ability to critique is that this information must somehow be communicated. Thus, rhetoric was crucial in the postmodern landscape. In case you are unfamiliar with the term, rhetoric refers to an approach to communication which, in a broad sense, focuses on persuading other parties in some form. Now, this definition is intentionally vague, as rhetoric is a constantly evolving study, though the full story of rhetoric falls outside of the scope of today's discussion. Postmodern rhetoric has a few distinct features: an emphasis on togetherness, a disdain for hyper-consumerist culture, and a skepticism towards authorities. Let's break that down. Remember, postmodern beliefs dictate that human social structures are real things and not abstractions supported by external forces. So postmodern rhetoric clings on to that realness of the human condition, often detailing how we're all in this together, and how cultural connections, those abstract forces we mentioned, lead to deeper human connections, the underlying reality. In modern culture, consumption of products made the world go round. The modern era was kickstarted by revolutions which made production of products substantially more streamlined. Thus, the efficient consumption of those products became central to the culture. Postmodern rhetoric refutes this, often describing consumer culture as oversaturating, and claiming that the effects related to this approach to consumption are innately harmful. We have already discussed how postmodernism is about questioning the world around us, but the scope that this aspect of postmodern rhetoric covers is immense. There is nothing that cannot be analyzed, reviewed, or criticized in some fashion or another. Politics is an obvious example of this, where representative authorities will often question the validity of each other's beliefs, and third parties watch on questioning the system in its entirety. But this same structure is present everywhere. Don't believe me? Go ahead and visit the website for your favorite news station. Find a topic on the front page. Anything will work. Okay, Now, open your least favorite news page and look up stories related to the same topic. Notice how plenty of the material is portrayed differently, even though it is the same topic. What you're seeing are subjective interpretations of the underlying reality, and each group refutes the claims of the other because neither group can be proven to be 100% true. For extra credit, go ahead and search a critique of, followed by the name of both of those news outlets. And here's the critique of the systems. In reality, you can add anything after a critique of, and you'll be met with similar results. So, how was this rhetoric disseminated? Well, if you were following along, I just showed you. The driving force behind the rapid spread of postmodernism was, and continues to be, the internet. Postmodernism was developing alongside the start of the Age of Information, a period during which the internet was becoming robust enough to support a serious, widespread infrastructure populated by the people. The internet paved the way for a new layer of the human experience. In a way, people were able to experience a whole new form of social relationships through this medium. No longer did one need the morning paper when you had access to the news in real time online. People weren't just limited with sharing their thoughts, including those postmodern beliefs, in local groups or among friends, because now they could join chat rooms and forums to connect with communities all over the world. Here again is another abstract interpretation of underlying real societal structures. But this abstraction of togetherness was incomparably more effective in disseminating ideas. One of the most common ways this took place was through something you may be familiar with: memes. See, I knew we'd get there eventually. Let's move the clock forward to 1996. The internet was still young, and the online culture of the 2000s had yet to develop. Online communications were done on a dial-up connection with a copy of America Online inside rudimentary chat rooms and email chains. One of these email chains housed something very special. This is the dancing baby, and it is one of the earliest examples of an internet meme. This ultra-low resolution GIF of a baby dancing gained popularity after being spread through those email chains. But hang on. How is this baby a rhetorical device? Well, to be honest, it isn't. At this point in our timeline, postmodernism is already a fairly prevalent school of thought, but memes from this era haven't caught up to the rest of the well-established rhetorical mediums of the time. Here in the late 90s and early 2000s, memes served first and foremost as entertainment and held very little, if any, rhetorical substance. Memes would need another decade before they evolved to the point where they could effectively deliver rhetoric. In 2005, the image macro came into popular usage. This form of meme adds text to images of similar quality to older memes. The addition of text was the first form of rhetorical delivery added to memes, although in this era they conveyed little, except the occasional punchline. However, 1 year later, in 2006, the image macro underwent a shift that would set memes on the path towards rhetorical supremacy. An advice animal is an image macro with an animal on a plain background, with text on the top and bottom of the image. The implication is that the animal is the one saying the text on the meme. Here, opinions, jokes, and commentary can be delivered from an anonymous internet user vicariously through a nondescript animal. Eventually, the newly developing internet culture personified these advice animals to the point where each genre of text had its own associated animal. Early advice animals were still mostly humorous in nature, but as the medium evolved, people realized that online communities were much more open to hearing messages delivered in cute packages such as these, than if the same messages were spread through forum posts or articles. Thus, advice animals became vehicles for multiple ideologies, postmodernism being among them. In 2009, a political advice animal was posted online. This post is of a little girl giving a friendly gesture to the camera as she lists grievances that she has with the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama. Rhetoric is certainly being delivered here, and it is plain to see that this meme is intended to persuade viewers that Obama mismanaged US funds. But where is the postmodernism? All this time, we've been walking through how memes became effective rhetorical devices, and Thanks Obama is one of the first examples of postmodern theory intersecting with internet culture. You see, 3 years later, in 2012, the Thanks Obama meme format was adapted into this. You'll note that Obama's presidency probably did not cause the creator of this meme to burn his toast. Remember the postmodern condition. What's to say that the expert, the creator of the original meme, really knows what he's talking about in regards to Obama? The internet as a collective questioned the authority of the original Thanks Obama and made a mockery of it. The juxtaposition of blaming a minor inconvenience on the greatest power in the United States is comedic and entirely antithetical to the original point of the format. From this point onwards, postmodernist beliefs become much more deeply ingrained into meme culture. From the mid-10s onward, memes shift from being primarily entertainment to instead having an even split of entertainment and social commentary. A great example of this is the 2014 meme, "This is Fine." This is Fine is an exploitable, a form of meme that exploits an existing work in a transformative fashion. This is Fine is a clear instance of a postmodern meme. The entire purpose of the image is to critique current systems in society, equating them to a raging fire, while the subject represents the populace's dangerous inaction. K.C. Green, the comic artist and creator of the original exploitable, describes how the meme evokes the feeling that things are burning down around us, but you got to have a smile sometimes. This further plays into the postmodernist concept of togetherness, as we are all experiencing these issues, and we must all cooperate to get through the hardships described by This Is Fine memes. Notice our clock? We're right back to where we started. Now we can talk about OK Boomer. At this point in time, the postmodern era is in full swing. Dissemination of postmodern ideas through the internet, both in the form of memes and otherwise, has led to a widespread culture in line with the core tenets of postmodernism we talked about earlier. To me, OK Boomer is the culmination of the internet's adaptation of these beliefs. This meme isn't an image macro. It's not an advice animal, and it's not an exploitable. It's just text, 2 words, and nothing more. But it's how these words are used that matters. OK Boomer's use as a retort began with Gen Z, where the phrase was used by many in that age demographic as a defense of their beliefs, an expression of postmodern togetherness, if you will. As it became more viral, the term could be used as a retort for anything related to baby boomers and older generations. For the unaware, baby boomers covers those born between 1946 and 1964, the height of modernism. It is fitting then that, like how postmodernism questions modernism, OK Boomer questions the eponymous generation. Lastly, let's look at the context where OK Boomer is used. The most popular use nowadays is as a response to political commentators, politicians, and figures of authority. Thus, this meme also encapsulates the opposition to authority prevalent in postmodernism. What's that? You don't agree with anything I said? My perspective isn't correct? Yeah. Okay, Boomer.